Technology partners are the unsung growth heroes. This is Partner-Led Growth, a show dedicated to empowering partners to discover the solutions their clients need while growing their ability to take their own revenue to the next level. Your host, Ben Spector, a passionate member of the MSP community for over a decade, will help you navigate the growing partner ecosystem. Partner-Led Growth is sponsored by Zementum, the revenue platform transforming the partner sales ecosystem, one solution, one vendor, one partner at a time.
Hello and welcome to Partner-Led Growth, the podcast. I'm your host, Ben Spector. Today's guest is a boundless entrepreneur, a prolific contributor to Forbes, a holder of an incredible 8 patents for storage, mobile applications, and UI. He's the co-founder and CEO of Perimeter 81. It's Amit Bareket. Amit, thank you very much for joining us today.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here, Ben. Thank you so much.
So getting straight into it, what is the biggest problem facing businesses today?
I think that the biggest problem that faces businesses today, and we hear that every day from our more than 2,300 customers of Perimeter 81, is that the world has changed. The internet is the new corporate network. Employees are remote and resources are moving to the cloud. And that leads to basically a new environment and a new IT ecosystem that they need to support, where their legacy networking and security appliances and security solutions and IT equipment does not longer advocate for this modern workforce. And as you know, IT is in the essence of everything that we do, right? And in order to increase productivity and allowing businesses to focus on what they do best, right, with their core business, and to allow them to operate, they face many challenges, problems, how to adapt to this modern workforce. And this is definitely one of the most challenging problems we face today.
I had an interesting conversation recently looking at the way current MSPs and technology partners are trying to transition to adding the second S, as we would describe it, from being managed service providers to managed security service providers. How has security changed for those corporate networks over the last few years? And therefore, what can those MSPs that are trying to go on that security journey do?
I think that it's a great question. Like the security risk is increasing every day. On the other hand, the complexity is increasing as well. And there are many different security solutions and many different security vendors. Just like, for example, in just a few months, there is the RSA, the largest security conference that will be held in San Francisco in June. There are going to be hundreds of vendors, even more, right? It's almost impossible to evaluate all the different solutions and implement them. And that's where basically MSPs, right, and MSSPs now evaluating and increasing their expertise. So we don't only see that companies are replacing firewalls and on-premise appliances that don't longer advocate for the modern workforce because employees are working from home, resources are moving to the cloud, the internet is the new corporate network, and you have appliances that are protecting an empty office. We also see that there is a much more limited amount of IT and security experts that you can hire and manage internally. And that basically pushes, right, and also facilitating a very fast growth environment of service providers that are providing the expertise and know-how, how to implement and maintain an enterprise-grade security, right, and deliver it to businesses from all sizes. That complexity is also simplified because when we had firewalls, security solutions usually have been implemented on-prem and are enhancing the network and requiring on-premise integrations and so forth. And now when there are new services like Perimeter 81 or others, we're allowing you to move from hardware to software. We see more security solutions and services are being simplified and consolidated under a single management console in a single service. Gartner calls that, Gartner, the leading IT consultancy firm, right? Call that segment SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, which is basically convergence of security tools and networking tools to a single service, which aims to simplify the complex and reduce that complexity gap, as we call it, because there are many security services that are decreasing the impact and basically creating a paradox. I have more security solutions, but I'm less secured. And the fact that solutions like SASE and services that are basically moving security services and networking services from hardware to software, alongside more experienced service providers that are focusing both on providing IT enablement, but also security, and that the second S, as you mentioned, that is coming from, is definitely the way we will see that the market is heading to, and will drive a lots of growth and impact and value to businesses around the globe.
Yeah, and I think that convergence topic is a really interesting one, because we've seen convergence happening in the communication space. For example, you've got your unified communications platforms that are increasingly, they're bringing together voice, they're bringing together text, they're bringing together all of the different methods of communication. And that's also gradually spilling out towards the customer service experience. You know, we're converging WhatsApp customer service with Teams, with telephone, with email, pulling together all of these different threads. And so I think it's only natural that we begin to see convergence in other areas of IT as well. So I think perhaps one of the biggest challenges for these MSPs, thinking about MSSP, there's your traditional cybersecurity vendors and your traditional MSPs. And naturally, you know, the security vendors are going to start looking towards delivering the network services. And so I think, you know, our MSP community also needs to be doing a lot from the networking side to deliver more of the security. I don't think there's space for both players within any one client. So what advice would you give to those MSPs that would enable them to work further and further towards pushing out the traditional security consultants from those businesses?
Sure, it's a great question. I think that we should look at the big picture, right? The big picture, let's say what's going to happen in the next 10 to 15 years. The internet, the infrastructure, right, with 5G and fiber is going to continuously develop. And today the infrastructure becomes a commodity. Okay, there is less of a need to provide a very complex network with dedicated lines in order to enable a fast connectivity and resilient connectivity. You can simply get two fast internet lines, one from 5G, one from fiber, connect them, and create a much more reliable and high available connectivity, right? So we will see businesses that are, from one end, the next 10 to 15 years, replacing their firewalls, the on-premise firewalls, and the on-premise MPLS lines and complex infrastructure with cloud-based internet-delivered network that has all the security that you have in a firewall, but over the internet and provides it very seamlessly regardless where the employees or resources are. Okay. On the other side, we're going to see companies and end customers, right, reducing their dependencies on internal IT teams and migrate that work to experts, right, specifically service providers. And what does it mean? It means that service providers, right, and MSPs need to start and prepare themselves with the right expertise and know-how to these trends, right? It means learn about SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, that there is a consensus in the market that all the $50 billion firewall market will basically translate to a cloud edge delivered network security solutions. And to learn about it, right? To engage with a SASE vendor like Perimeter 81, or there are several, experience with it, and start and develop services that does not only include the network side, but also the security side to support that market that is going to develop more and more as we go, right? You don't want to be ahead. You don't want to be late, right? You want to be ahead and to prepare yourself and also to lead that transformation. So definitely there are lots of advantages in it because it allows you also as a service provider to develop a more recurring revenue business and to become more innovative than deploying and managing on-premise firewalls and solutions. But the other advantage, that the fact that SASE solutions and Secure Access Service Edge and basically let's call it firewall as a service, because it's a software solution, it really simplifies the way that it delivers security in what was previously very complex and required many, many different solutions to be managed separately and integrated separately, required higher degree of expertise, becoming more simple, right, and easy to manage. And it's a win-win for all sides. So I definitely am very confident that this is where the market goes to. I believe that some of the MSPs will be able to make the jump quicker, and they will win more business and be more successful.
Yeah, I think either perhaps through ignorance or through arrogance, a lot of the MSPs and technology partners perhaps already think they have a solution to all of this. They think that they're already delivering things like the email security into their clients. They're delivering firewall as a service you've mentioned. How do the services that Perimeter 81 deliver differ from those kind of traditional security models?
Yeah, it's very different. We have taken a cloud-first, mobile-first approach, which means that we came up with a platform that includes a single management console, a single network that exists in the cloud edge and is completely managed by Perimeter 81, and a single agent. Okay. This is materially different than our other competitors, which basically had a legacy solution and adapted it to the cloud and still have different management console. They have appliances that needs to be installed on premise and managed. They have different solutions and different management platform that you need to scroll between and jump between. And what we are emphasizing in Perimeter 81 is how to simplifying the complex. And we invest many of engineering hours into how to make a reliable, impactful platform that includes that one management console, one network, and one agent, and to bind multiple use cases with keeping the user in the center, not the site or the resources. And today we have three main use cases that we support. The first use case, which is basically, I believe, the most common one, because today all the employees are remote, is external to internal, zero trust network access, zero trust application access. Basically how to enable employees to access resources while they're outside the network. We call it, again, external to internal. The second use case, which we are focusing on as well and have great success, and we released it not a long time ago, is the internet security, the secure web gateway. Basically how to secure employees while they're accessing the internet. And these two use cases are, let's say, the most common ones, because today employees are working from anywhere, they browse the internet and they need access in secure corporate networks, right? The last use case is interconnectivity, how to connect between branches, like SD-WAN as a service, which we support. But we see less of demand for it now because there's much less people in the office and there's much less of traffic to optimize, and the internet is faster, so not necessarily you need to optimize. And that basically leads to a very holistic approach, and that delivered from a single management platform that, by the way, has a multi-tenant support. So as an MSP, instead of traveling to your customers, installing, managing your clients, you can do it everything remotely from a cloud managed platform. But not only, we see that specifically mid-sized companies and smaller size customers are the first movers from on-premise appliances and networks to cloud-based solutions, because they have less of complexity in their networks. And this gives a great opportunity for MSPs to start and implement such solutions in smaller customers, which they usually have, but also to grow to larger and larger businesses as they develop the expertise, and larger businesses are migrating in looking for that expertise in place. And this is where Perimeter 81 comes in with many, many features and enablement tools to MSPs on one end, but also a very strong platform with a very holistic approach that is delivered from that single management, single network, single agent.
There's definitely a lot to be said for this single story you tell, about single endpoint, single agent, because I think a lot of the legacy security vendors have tried to pivot their historically enterprise platforms into modern cloud managed platforms, and there's always a disconnect. And I think a small number of vendors have managed to really nail the multi-tenant management approach by giving the MSPs the ability to configure things at a more global level across their clients. Traditionally with some of these older enterprise grade products, you have to really log into each client tenant, do an enormous amount of deep configuration that only applies to that one tenant. And it's very difficult to kind of globally manage policies. If you come across a new zero-day threat or some new threat, and you want to very quickly apply a new policy across all of your clients, that kind of functionality is something that tends to only be available in the platforms that have been built up from the ground up for the partner community. I think one of the things I really wanted to explore with you was Microsoft 365 and the way products like Perimeter 81 fit in with those existing cloud applications. There are probably a lot of MSPs that think, well, look, our clients already have Microsoft 365. It comes with Defender, it comes with conditional access policies, it comes with a lot of this security stuff, and I put stuff in inverted commas here. The reality is a lot of those things are extremely complicated to configure. And I think Microsoft have really missed a trick there. But what does why do the MSPs need to also be deploying a solution like Perimeter 81 alongside Microsoft 365? And what value does it add to that?
It's an excellent question. First of all, what we are doing, Perimeter 81, for firewalls and legacy networks and security solutions is what Microsoft Office 365 has done to emails and workplace tools. And when you utilize the Office 365 and the security tools, the Defender and the Active Directory and conditional access, you are limiting users to access specific resources or have a great audit or having endpoint security tool. But still, all your environments and your services and solutions are completely wide open to the public internet, which is basically the most basic thing that Perimeter 81 or firewalls or any secure corporate network is intending to do, is basically creating a closed network that is encrypted and reducing the attack surface. Okay, there's a very big difference between you have someone sitting within your network and trying to attack you or steal your information or extract your data, than someone that is sitting outside of your network that don't have network access and visibility to your resources. Okay, it's like health and sky. And utilizing Office 365 solutions, right, without closing them from the public internet has still a great risk. Okay, someone can steal your credentials, someone can create a phishing attack on you, right, by just simply sending you an email. And you need that level of security on top, and still you cannot get rid of the corporate network because it provides you basically we call it a black cloud, but it's basically a reduced attack surface that unless the user is authenticated and validated, and this is where zero trust comes in, right, cannot access to any of the resources, right, as well as Office 365. And on top, you can provide different security services as URL filtering. For example, if you get an email with a link that has a phishing attack and you click it, then it blocks. Or when you download a file, we scan it for viruses ahead of time that it gets to your endpoint, where the endpoint security tool will kick in. So provide you a much greater protection level that is protecting your network. Even Microsoft recommends to utilize VPN and similar solutions, but VPNs are not longer advocate for the modern workforce because it requires you to tunnel back all your network back to your appliance, but the appliance protect an empty office. So all the intention of a SASE network is to provide that overlay network that is encrypted, verified, implementing zero trust methodologies, right? And providing you a very strong baseline and secure environment to start and consume different applications on top, including Office 365. And we have integrations. We have integrations to Azure Active Directory and official integration on the Microsoft environment and Sentinel, right? The same environment, and ability to filter different activities in Office 365. And this is where CASB comes in. And it's definitely something that complements and provides a lot of value.
I'd like to explore that a little bit further, if that's okay, because
Sure.
I think probably the vast majority of end clients that our MSPs and technology partners are working with are using Microsoft 365. If I look back to my MSP, by the time I exited about a year and a half ago, probably 90% of our customers by then had been moved completely to the cloud. The remaining 10% were, well, sorry, but I mean, the 90% were probably using Microsoft 365 and 10% probably using Google Workspace. I think the day I left, we had 0 clients who still had traditional on-premise server infrastructure. So, at a high level, how does Perimeter 81 actually interface and control Microsoft 365? How complicated is it to set up the policies that actually, pull the two services together?
So it's a good question. As I mentioned again, Perimeter 81 is we're confident that the same change that you saw from on-premise email servers to Office 365, that, as you mentioned, will happen as well with firewalls and cloud security solutions like Perimeter 81. We have native, because we are software-driven and we are a platform that exists in the cloud, we have a native integration, API integration with Azure and Office, in order to create that integration seamless. Generally speaking, you don't need an additional tools or configuration to do. It's basically integrating and we federating the policies to Microsoft. It's simply creating another level of security and different set of policies that you need to configure within Perimeter 81 that are more related to your network security and more related to the internet security, right? And it complements whatever Office 365 or Azure or the Microsoft endpoint security solutions are offering, right? One of the things that we're doing is allowing to validate that the Windows Security Center is has no alerts, and Microsoft Defender is updated and is running, and providing you more control and visibility in a much more holistic view, like something that is on top, right?
Brilliant. Thank you. That's been really interesting. Every time I have one of these conversations about SASE and the convergence of networking and security, I end up learning more than when I started. As you know, this podcast is sponsored by Zementum, which is a sales and revenue platform. Could you tell me about one of your most memorable sales?
Yeah, I think that we have today, the company has more than 2,300 businesses as customers in 4 years. And we've developed a very strong go-to-market. We are selling software. So one of the things that we've noticed that there's not, in the long run, there is not like a big place for the legacy distributors and VARs, and the value they bring is much less. And we are saying that the MSPs are really catching up, and all the large distributors would like to get into the service provider community. And this is definitely, I believe, one of the fastest verticals for us. And we work hard for every deal that we get, right? But today, something that is really opened my eyes when we see our largest customers today are MSPs. And I have many stories about large sales that we've done and work with the IT teams. And generally speaking, the velocity, we acquire more than 170 customers every month in Perimeter 81 now. The velocity is very, very high and very sophisticated go-to-market. But eventually, what really surprised me and makes it very appealing for us as a vendor to focus on MSPs, that the recurring impact and value that we bring and also get back from MSPs is multiple times higher than working directly with customers. And today, our largest customers are MSPs, although the efforts and the investments that are investing in direct customers in every deal versus enabling and training the MSP and giving him value that he can then filter it down are much higher, right? The direct side is much harder. And it just opens our eyes to continue doubling down on investing more on the MSPs and making them more successful and provide more education and more enablement materials to make them more successful and also grow that revenue in Perimeter 81 itself.
That makes sense. And putting Perimeter 81 aside for a moment, if you were delivering sales training to our MSPs, what would you say is the best way to really clarify that their solution or working with them is going to be the best choice for their client?
So we've taken a product-led approach in Perimeter 81. We usually not running a very complex sales cycle that takes a lot. Because it's a software solution, it's very easy for us to go to customers, is to tell them start small, see the value, and then expand. So our average sales cycle is about 6 days, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
From opportunity to closed one. So we're trying to remove barriers for entry and get started even in a very small deployment, because it's just like Office 365. You can see the value very quickly. Show the value to the customer immediately gets it, and then expands. When we look on today on sales, it's not a funnel that goes from top to bottom. It's a bow tie, right? So you have your sales process, close the customer, but then you have to show recurring value and impact.
Yeah.
In order to get a very strong recurring revenue and revenue growing in a very high net retention rates eventually. So what we do, right? And it might be wrong, it might be right, but we see a really positive ROI and a great impact, is trying to simplify the sales process, engage, and we call it engage to the target, right? And to show the customer value and focus on providing them recurring value that will lead to more expansion and a larger deployment and larger ARR impact for our partners.
I think that's great advice, and it ties in with a few things. If we try and translate all of that to the MSP model, the land and expand thing that you describe, get in there with a small solution, demonstrate value, and then grow your footprint, is definitely the easiest way to sell into a client. And then that second point, going from the land and expand to simplifying the sales process, those two things together, I think is really valuable advice. I think there are a few sales coach type figures in the MSP industry that are convinced that selling in $300 per user per month is realistic from day one. And I'm sure for some people it is, but for the vast majority, going to a prospect with that kind of figure for the full all-inclusive stack is probably a little unrealistic. And so I think being willing to start at a lower point, start kind of filling those solutions into the client more gradually is really great advice. Last question from me, I think then, is what's exciting you most about the future of technology and IT, and what should our MSPs really be focusing on over the next 12 months?
So we feel that we're in strategic crossroad in the IT. Okay, companies are going to replace their complete, like COVID accelerated it and made the big mishmash in the space, but eventually companies are going to replace all they've built, all their know-how, with different type of solutions that are software-driven, cloud-driven, internet-driven, okay, as well as replace their and reduce the amount of efforts they invest internally in IT. and move to managed services, not only on the mid-sized market, but also in the larger enterprises, we see times fly by. And these are two trends that Perimeter 81 is focusing on. And it makes me very excited because we have opportunity to build a very meaningful and impactful business that is a great success to date, but lots of opportunities and meaningful activities and impact that we can bring to the world. And this is definitely something that fascinating me day and night. There are mornings that I come very, very excited. There are evenings that I go to sleep very worried and concerned about how to solve specific things. But in the greater picture, right, we see a major development day after day, and believe that by MSPs focusing on that big picture, right, and implementing and tools and services that fits to that trend, that we see great success.
Yeah, I'd echo that. I think it's no secret that the driving value through partners is where we're all going to see massive growth over the next few years. We're doing a lot of work at Zementum in that vein. We've launched a partner align platform for vendors, which enables them to bring their services, bring their customers, to the place where the MSPs are doing business. We've got developing a load of features to help the MSPs themselves discover the best-in-class solutions to their clients' problems. But what I was also perhaps hoping to get at is whether there's any specific technologies that you think people really need to be keeping an eye on over the next 12 months.
Definitely SASE, Perimeter 31.
No surprises there.
But yeah, I think this is a great and big enough area to watch for. Okay, and also we have competitors and other companies in the space, right? Like Zscaler and others. Definitely a lot to learn, right? But I strongly feel, and I think that there is a consensus in the market that this is where network and security are heading to, and this is network and security is the bread and butter of every MSP, right? So definitely suggest to focus there.
Amit, thank you very much for joining me today. Where can people find you if they want to know more?
Everyone can feel free to send me an email to Amit, AMIT, at perimeter81.com, or go to our website and schedule a demo. We'll be very happy to meet and engage and consult and give any value that we can. Thank you so much.
Otherwise, if they want to connect with you personally, presumably they can find you on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, or send me an email, and they can do that both.
Brilliant. Well, like I said, thank you so much for joining me today. I've definitely learned a lot, and I hope our audience have too. So if you've learned something today or laughed, please do tell someone about the podcast. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thank you very much, Ben, for hosting me.
Thanks for listening. If you want to get more from today's show, check out the show notes and share this episode with a friend. Earn, grow, and manage revenue quickly and cost-effectively in the Zementum Revenue Platform. To learn more, check out Zementum.com. See you in the next episode.